yeah, so I got really good at doing these
Mm,
ceremonies, and people kept asking me,
mm,
how can I do what you do? Because I
yeah,
want to lead people to these peak experiences.
yeah.
You really create peak experiences, people, where they will say to you like, I've never ever experienced anything as remarkably good as that before.
So, welcome everyone to another episode of Freedom Project TV. I have a super special guest today, my mentor, Niraj Naik. I said your last name right, right? Naik?
Correct.
Awesome.
Or Naik. Yeah,
Naik.
however you
Awesome.
wish to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he is the creator and founder of Soma Breath, of which I
Indeed.
am an instructor. So, Niraj, let's start with, because I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit about your story? Because that's why we wanted you on too. You have a really inspirational story of going through your life before as a pharmacist,
Yeah.
finding out you have Crohn's, figuring out that perhaps you could heal that on your own, and kind of how you did that and what led you to found some breath.
Sure. So actually, it's ulcerative colitis, which is different, but similar to Crohn's, but still pretty horrific condition for people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you know anyone who has it, it's a
Yeah,
horrible, horrible condition.
yeah.
So yeah, so years ago, I was actually a community pharmacist, like in my 20s, and that's where I got like my first taste of my own medicine, of like seeing what it is like for patients, dishing out all these pills all day long, seeing patients just not getting better. It's real like void I felt in the healthcare system, when it actually came to the care part. So I had just literally got more and more disillusioned with the career until I had a bit of a breakdown. And then I went to this Tony Robbins event, and actually it was actually really eye-opening. At the time I thought it was all
Mm.
nonsense, but when I did the actual course, because I got dragged to it,
Huh.
um, it was one of the best things I ever did, to be honest. And the last day, it talked all. If you're an entrepreneurially minded person, Tony Robbins is great to give you the
Yeah,
energy to make you
yeah,
believe
yeah,
you can do anything.
yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes it's the belief, self-belief is all you need to
Right.
succeed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I actually, on the last day was the first time I ever heard anyone talk about diet, nutrition, breathing, things like that. And I was like, well, I'm going to put Tony Robbins to the test, because I've got a pharmacy full of sick people. And if this stuff works,
Mm,
we can find out straight away. So that's exactly what I started to do. Started to test out his information by giving out shopping lists based on people's conditions. The main thing was just getting people to stop eating so much processed foods. That's all I had to do, was just change them from processed foods to normal
oh,
foods to cook for
yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
And those who took my advice got better within a few weeks, without needing to be on all these medications. People are on crazy amounts of drugs. So eventually that got me promoted to the head office of a huge corporation in the UK. Could have helped a lot of people, but 6 months into it, they shelved the idea.
Mm,
It was too renegade,
mm,
telling people not to drink Coca-Cola,
right,
when they've got
right.
diabetes. It's like,
Yeah,
what? It was
yeah,
way too renegade for them.
yeah, yeah.
So then I got even more disillusioned, and then I had a big nervous breakdown
Wow.
and ended up really, really in a bad way at that point. That's when the colitis kicked in, also colitis, and I was like shitting blood like 40 times a day,
Wow.
almost for a year. And then I got so depressed because I was told you're going to either have your colon removed, or you're going to have to be a guinea pig for a drug that hasn't been tested yet. And I was already wearing like a nappy, when I
Wow.
was going out, because it's
Yeah,
so embarrassing, these
yeah.
symptoms. Because you're like literally going to the toilet. You can't control the urge.
Wow.
And I was like ready to give it up, but I knew there had to be a third path. And then
Mm,
luckily somebody came. They say God stands for gift of desperation, and somebody came to the rescue, and she basically said, you've got a real gift here. If you can heal yourself from this, without taking the medications and having the surgery and all that, you'd be an amazing role model. And that was a yoga teacher called Swami Kananda, and she basically taught me the basics of pranayama, yoga, Ayurveda,
Yeah.
meditation. And within a few months of going down that rabbit hole, I was back to full health.
Wow.
And I was like, right, I'm going to put science to these techniques. I'm going to do whatever I can to put science to
Mm.
all of this and evidence to all of this and spread it everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Were you
that's
still working as a pharmacist at that point?
no, I never
Okay.
went back to that
Wow.
profession after
Yeah.
that. And you know, I started to, music was a big part of it. So
Mm,
I went back into music therapy,
mm,
and I realized that if you can put breathing techniques to music, it
mm.
enhances the effect, because in certain pranayama techniques, you breathe in and out to a rhythm.
Yeah.
And so the best rhythm is the music. The music has a natural rhythm to it. So rather than counting 1, 2, 3, 4 in your head,
Yeah.
you can just do it effortlessly with music. It's
Mhm.
so much better. And actually, that got quite popular. And I had like famous therapists like Marissa Peer, and then eventually Wim Hof, the Iceman, used all
Yeah.
my music for his courses, and
Wow.
that led to another, you know, whole thing. So then I started traveling around the world, and I got trained with a doctor in India who's a yoga teacher
Mhm.
as well. And he's got an amazing deep knowledge about this ancient form of yoga, the original,
Yeah.
before it got turned into a big industry as it is now. It used to be very different style of yoga. You know,
Yeah.
yoga
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more like a meditation. You
Yeah.
put every pose to maximum effort, and you control your breathing with each pose. And this basically stimulates your body to grow back stronger. And you get trained to actually have slower and slower breathing rates. Okay, so one of the goals of pranayama is to lower your breathing rate, calm your breathing rate right down,
Yep.
because erratic, fast breathing leads to
Mhm.
stress and then shortens your lifespan. Slow, consistent, coherent breathing
Yeah.
leads to a longer lifespan, less disease, and lots of correlations in the animal kingdom as well when it comes to breathing rates and things like that. So that got me really interested in all the science, and eventually I created my own school, which is Soma Breath.
Mhm.
It was just a natural progression. Well, actually, what before that, I was doing these breathwork ceremony. That's what I got
Okay.
really known
Yeah.
for. And decided to take it on tour, like doing these very powerful,
Yeah.
because certain pranayama techniques are for altered states of consciousness, and they
Yep.
take you right into
Yeah.
different dimensions of thought and reality. And there are ways for you to re kind of interpret your life and give different meanings to things, and can help you shift a lot of bad memories and bad associations with past events, and you know, reframe your future in a different way and the past in a different way. So um yeah, so I got really good at doing these
Mhm.
ceremonies, and people kept asking me,
Mhm.
how can I do what you do, because I
Yeah.
want to lead people to these peak experiences.
Yeah.
You really create peak experiences, people, where they will say to you like, I've never ever experienced anything as remarkably good as that before.
Yep.
And thank you. You know, you get like okay, somebody goes to see a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might go, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoopie do. But when you
Right.
come to a Soma Breath experience,
Oh
we
yeah.
actually did one in a cinema once,
Oh, no kidding.
a 3 hour guided breath meditation.
Wow.
And it was one of the most profound
Oh, I bet.
spiritual awakenings for the people who were there.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, all of these things just led me to um, creating our own school where we train
Mhm.
instructors, and then it's just evolved where, you know, it's now a full blown, full on course.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't revolve around one technique. It's
Yeah.
many different pranayama techniques,
Yeah.
evidence behind it. It's really my system, but based on traditional techniques combined
Yeah.
with the modern understanding and science,
Yeah.
put into a system that anyone can understand and follow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's why I love it so much. That's what I was telling you.
yeah,
The first time I did one, I was like, and I had a ton. I'd been going to a lot of these meditation retreats, and I had a ton of mystical, crazy, out of body experiences. But when I did that, that was like, oh, this is this is a different level of it. And
Yeah.
the reason actually I found breathwork, I was going to these meditation retreats, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he has a really specific breath. But at one of them, my very good friend Tony, he's a Scottish fella, and he had just gotten
Mm.
back from one of Wim Hof retreats, and so he was like telling me all about it. You know, the Scottish, God love them, they talk a million miles an hour, and you can't understand
Yeah.
anything they say. And he's trying to
Yeah.
show me like how to breathe properly. All he showed me, he was like, take a breath in. And I took a breath, and of course my shoulders rise, and I had no idea about belly breathing or anything like that. And he's like,
Right.
you're breathing wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm breathing wrong? And he said, lay down.
Ah.
And he put, I mean, he laid me on the ground we were in Cancun, Mexico. He laid me on the ground. He put his hand on my diaphragm, and he said,
Mm.
okay, your belly should rise when you breathe in. And it was a
Yeah.
completely new concept for me. And what I did was he showed me just how to do kind of that basic belly breathing. And we went
Right.
into one of the meditation sessions, and I did just that right before we went into, this very specific breath. And Niraj,
Right.
I had a massive release. I mean, like shaking. Oh, it was amazing. And like I said, I had had many different other experiences, but this was really, it was a physical release. And I felt like I had lifted about 20 pounds off my shoulders. And I'm like,
Wow.
that's what led me to breath work. I was like, there is something to this. And so I went home and I started researching Wim and holotropic and all kinds of things, which, like I said,
Nice.
eventually led me to Soma, where I fell in love. So next question is my favorite. So one of the things that right when I started the instructor training, that I absolutely fell in love with is this sense of no guru. Like everybody is the collective, the community is the collective. And I've
Mm.
been in other communities where that is not the case, and it's like
Right.
one guru. And I saw so much how people fall into that trap, and then they give their power away to the person that's standing up there on stage, and it's crazy. And so I love that. I tell everybody that, any interviews I do, anytime I'm talking about Soma Breath, that is what the biggest thing for me that I fell in love with was this sense of community, this sense of no guru.
Nice.
You
Love
are
it.
super personable and relatable, and comfortable. And it doesn't feel like a hierarchy in this community. It's an amazing
Yeah.
fucking community. I love it. So,
Cool. Nice.
is that from the pranayama teachings? Is that sort of ideal from that? Or was that something you incorporate? How do you maintain that how do you maintain that culture? Because you do a really good job of it.
I think it comes from my mum. Like
Oh, really?
yeah, my mum's like a
No shit.
very sociable, community-driven person. She would
Oh,
like
wow.
host loads of events at our house and
No
music
kidding.
events, and
Yeah.
she's like the center of all the parties, and so she's a very social. My dad, on the other hand, is completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he's totally the polar opposite, very
Yeah.
socially awkward and aloof. So I
Ah,
get it definitely from my mum.
yeah.
But also it's being in this whole community driven scene of music. So I used to be a music promoter,
Okay.
so there was a lot of, it was much more like a community driven
Yeah.
thing. And at
Yeah.
university I created like a dance music society, so I've
Wow.
always been around like doing stuff for the people,
Gotcha.
and I would, and the dance music society I created at university was all about empowering
Mm,
new musicians and DJs to come through. Like
yes.
you'd have a new president, new secretary, new, because it'd be like a society that you'd have to
Okay.
create, and there would be a new one every year. There would be never
Okay.
one
Yeah.
president the whole
Yeah. Yeah.
time, and I've never liked the problem with the guru model is that firstly, one person with too much power, the ego can get the better of them.
So much.
That's one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Secondly, if their ego's too strong, they won't update the training.
Yeah.
So their training can get quite quickly out of date,
Yeah.
and they can still be regurgitating the same old
Same thing.
nonsense that they were doing
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
without evolving. That's the problem. They don't
Yeah.
evolve.
Yeah.
There is a sometimes you need the leader to drive things forward. And
Sure.
I've been a leader,
Yeah.
but I'm not the only one,
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
company who does that.
Yeah.
But you do need that sometimes. It's finding a balance.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we live in a world now where there's so much like talent and creative people, and if you work together, you can make something much bigger and better
Absolutely.
than just on your own, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
this zero, no ego, we go policy.
Oh yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's how I think.
I definitely feel it, and I love that you guys
I
you
stole that
want.
from Wim Hof, by the way,
Did you?
because he would say that to me all the time.
I love how you guys are like you know you want people to train in it, so then they go teach it in their way, and
Yes,
that's very refreshing.
that's
Very,
right.
very, yeah, yeah. You guys
Yeah,
do.
when you're being a facilitator,
Mm.
you don't want to be like a robot who's just the same
No,
as everybody else.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you want to put your
yeah,
own
yeah,
personality to things,
yeah.
that,
And I
and
think
because then you'll get your audience, you'll get your crowd that
exactly.
way.
That's what I love about it is because I can put me in it, and that just like you said,
Yes.
people telling me like, "Oh my God, your breath work is just it's changing my life. It's amazing." In fact, we have one of our students that's gone through our course, and she,
Mm.
I don't know what her diagnosis is. She never talks about it, but it sounds like it could be similar to yours, because she just have to shit all the time. Like she couldn't even go to the store. She couldn't even, I mean, she couldn't really leave her
Uh,
apartment. And so she's
mm.
like, she started going through our course and doing the breath work, and she's like, I decided I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to the gas station. She said, I was standing in line in the grocery store and I heard you, Em, in my head. In, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
out,
really?
2. And she said,
Oh,
I just
wow.
did it and the urge went away. And so she's been
Oh,
with us for probably 4 months now. And yeah, I mean, the
mm.
urges are going away. She's not shitting all the time. She's like, it's kind of strange because
Really?
she has to get
Wow.
used to, yeah, yeah, it's fucking powerful stuff,
Nice.
this breath work, Niraj.
Yeah. It
I
is.
think
It is. It's and so simple.
for you. Why I have a lot of people ask me this, and I want to hear your explanation. I've heard it in my training, but why do you think Soma is different than other breath work modalities?
I think I can't speak for all of them, but what we do that's different is for sure the music side, the
Yes.
proprietary music that we have
Yeah.
that makes the whole
Yeah.
experience more fun and
Yes.
enjoyable, and also adds extra dimension to it. But also the fact that we're not like just focused on one technique that we've made up, somehow. We're actually based on a traditional wisdom from
Yeah.
pranayama, and in there is a specific sequence to do things, and a certain way of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
and also there is a lot of different techniques. So we focus on the most scientifically evidence-based ones, um, for what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I love it too. It's not
Cool.
like one size fits all.
No, exactly. No one size fits all with
No,
what we do.
it's so many different practices. What is your daily breath routine like?
My daily breath routine is usually do a few different things. But if you do our energized meditation, you know that we have like a little bit of a warm up, and then we do toning, and then we do a daily dose, which consists
Yeah.
of rhythmic breathing and meditation, right?
Yep.
So that's basically the sequence I tend to do. But I do more yoga, and then like weights, and then
Mm.
but I would start the breathing. I would start with the breathing first,
Yeah.
before I do any
Yeah.
more intense exercise, because it helps. Well, the when you energize yourself with the breath, with that breathing technique, the Soma awakening technique,
Mm.
it kind of gives you more of energy
Mm.
to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with your exercise, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So I'll do like my own kind of energized meditation, and then do like weights
Gotcha.
and I'll go more deeper with yoga.
Yeah.
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 And I don't do it religiously like every single
Yeah.
day. I don't always have
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But I try and do something every day.
Yeah. 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 Do
Yeah.
you have a certain meditation practice? Do you think that breath work could, do you think breath work is just as powerful as meditation, or are they one and the same to you? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so breath work, if we look at it from the roots, which is pranayama,
Hmm.
um, they're all branches of yoga. Meditation is a branch of yoga, but
Yeah.
meditation is really misunderstood. Like, not many people
Yeah.
really, I mean, even I can't say that I understand it to the most
Yeah.
highest level. I still have a lot of learning to do, but actually, meditation, the real meditation, came right at the end
Hmm.
of yoga, a system of yoga. So traditional yoga, meditation is like the final thing you work on.
Oh.
So you're meant to prepare your body
Yeah.
with breathing, with the right yoga
Mm.
techniques, in order to then be able to meditate.
Yeah.
And in order to really go deep with meditation, you'll be using breath control, because meditation has different ways of doing it. But the most common one is like just observing your breath in
Mm.
and out, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But there are other types of meditation where you would hold your breath, and like kumbhaka, which would, so baya kumbhaka, you hold your breath after exhalation. And by pausing your breath, okay, it allows you to really turn off the verbal part of the mind, which is one of the goals of meditation, the speaking part, which calms the sympathetic nervous system right down. And if you actually can hold your breath for long, long periods of time, then you can also go into these even deeper altered states of consciousness with the breath retention phase. So you're
Yeah.
lowering the oxygen for a short period of time. So that has its own benefit. You raise carbon dioxide and nitric oxide, and that state change can give you this very euphoric, blissful, samadhi like feeling, right? That can last. If you can prolong that and stay in that bliss, you can stay in it for a long time. Then you're like those superhuman yogis who live at top of the Himalayas, where the carbon dioxide levels are much higher, oxygen levels are much lower than what we have at sea level. So it's almost like the whole system of yoga was designed to make you be able to hold your breath or slow your breathing rate so low that you can then go into these samadhi states, because there's definitely a correlation between your stillness of breath and the depth of meditation that you can go into.
Yeah.
Okay, but then there's other types of meditation as well. There's the simplest one of all is just to single focus meditation, where, and anyone can do this, and this acts like a defrag switch for your mind. Okay, because it switches off the verbal part of the mind, the
Hmm.
monkey mind,
Hmm.
the verbal part of the mind, the voice in your
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Every time that voice is going around in your head, it's creating tension in your body, a sympathetic response,
Hmm.
where you get tense. So the more whirling thoughts you have, the more tense you are. The more tense you are, the less the blood flow is to your muscles and joints and tissues, which cause there's then degeneration. You're not getting blood flow to your organs, you start to degenerate, right?
Hmm.
So basically, your organs, tissues, super important if you want to live a long time. So reducing tension and stress is a good idea. So having a little daily practice of defragging your mind is a
Yeah.
great idea. And that the easiest way to do that is just to take your awareness away from the voice in your head to another source of information.
Mhm.
So that could be literally just listening to a hum, a tone, like do, like a singing bowl, do,
Mm.
just having here, let's putting your tuning into that sound,
Mhm.
or the birds, it could be the
Yeah.
sounds of nature. It could be staring at a candle, a flickering candle.
Yeah.
Just doing that switches off that part of the brain and switches on more the right side of the brain
Yeah.
as well. You get more into that alpha theta brainwave state,
Mm,
and that's can be very healing and therapeutic
yeah.
for you to
Absolutely.
do it for a few minutes. Our sequence already gives you that.
Yeah.
When you do our technique, you're automatically following along with the guided meditation
Hmm.
and the rhythm of the breath. You're just breathing in a rhythm and then you're holding your breath. That whole sequence does exactly the same thing because it takes
Yeah.
your attention away from the voice in your head to an activity
Yeah.
where you get lost into that activity
Yeah.
and you can't
Yeah.
think about anything else.
Yeah.
So in it, our technique is a meditation.
It is
That
a
the
meditation.
most
Yeah.
popular one, the Soma Breath
Yeah. Yeah.
meditation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming from like before I went down the rabbit hole of spirituality, I didn't know anything. I mean, I knew nothing about, I was not raised spiritually. I didn't have concepts of quantum or anything like that. And so, I read a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I started his meditations. And so that's where I originally started, was these deep, long meditations, or like hour,
Mm.
sometimes longer. And what I found with Soma, looking back, I mean, I remember the first 9 months, I was joking. It was like a shit show for me when I first started trying to meditate, because I just couldn't shut my mind down, my monkey mind.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm like
Right.
a dog with a bone when I, want to get something. So I didn't stop. But what I found after starting the Soma instructor training, and what I find now with people that I work with, is being able to use your breath to, like you said, like not only focus on something else, but you're actually calming your system down by using your breath consciously. It's like your own drug that you're using to take to calm your mind down. So then I
Yes.
could go into even deeper states in meditation. I could more easily slip into that sort of relaxed state. So for
Mm.
me, that is what I'm so passionate about now, is like people who want to start meditating even 5-10 minutes a day, but they can't quiet their mind. I'm like, use your breath. Your breath
Mm.
is what's going to get you there into even deeper states. And then you get the
Yeah.
benefit, I feel like, of meditation so much more, because you're working with it together. And that for
Yeah.
me was huge.
Yeah. But the actual goal of meditation is actually liberation. Is to free
Yeah.
yourself from the cycle of birth
Yeah.
and rebirth. That's
Yeah.
really
Ooh, I love that.
the end goal. But that takes a long time,
Yeah.
and maybe it's not even something that you can even prove that you achieved, because
Right.
how do you know
How do
that
you know?
how do you prove to somebody on this
Yeah.
planet once
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
left your body
Yeah.
that you're not
But
reborn again? So it's one
right.
of those strange
Yeah. Rabbit
goals
holes.
that can never be
Yeah.
proved. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my favorite thing, if you go on any of my social media, is breath retention. I'm obsessed with it. It has made such an impact in my life. Intermittent
Yeah.
hypoxia and breath retention that is basically the core of pranayama, correct? I should know this since
It's
I'm
the
an
most
instructor.
yeah. It's the you could say, yeah, kumbhaka um was another word for pranayama. And pranayama, there's so many different interpretations, but yes, the kumbhaka technique of holding your breath retention, controlling the pause, is actually like the most revered
Mm,
aspect of pranayama, because that's the way creates strength in the body. It's the way you control the energy in your body. It's pranayama literally means energy control.
wow.
So it's all about controlling the pause. Pause means death as well, right? When you
Yeah.
pause,
Yeah.
um, like when your breath ceases for long enough, you die, right?
Yeah.
So when you
Yep.
can control that, you can actually cheat death.
Yeah.
That's like the ancient kind of wisdom
Wow.
of it is having control over that pause means you can cheat death.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I always tell the people I work with, it always shows me where I'm at in my head and emotionally too. Because the days that I
Yeah.
have a more difficult time holding it, I know that this is going a lot. And when I'm able to push past that, I'm able to push past so many things in my life. And Niraj, what I love about breath work, and I believe this is, I believe pranayama is the only one that recognizes the body as like you're using the body for a path to spiritual enlightenment. I don't know if I heard that correctly, but the reason why I love breath work so much, another reason, is because coming from deep meditations, it was all about going out of the body and, you know, having these amazing mystical experiences, which are great. And I loved them. And it's what catapulted me into the life I live now. But I found so many people then could not be in their body, their eyes open, like doing these things throughout the days, which it's what we teach in our course is you can't just sit in a room and meditate all day. You're going to have to figure out how to take that into your life. And is,
Yeah, integration. That's why
yeah,
meditation is like end of
yeah,
yoga. So if you
yeah,
imagine to go through the yogic system really is like takes a lifetime.
wow,
So what the problem happened in this modern world is everyone wants everything now, right? They
yeah,
want instant enlightenment.
yeah,
Now, here's the thing. In yoga, in that wisdom, there's certain phases to our life. So the first phase, you're a student, right? That's like
mm,
when you're a child growing up
gotcha.
and you're completely dependent on your parents. So you're a child, you're meant to be a child.
Mhm,
And the next phase, you're an adult and you are working. You're meant to generate wealth to be able to support your family, right? Then the third phase, you become the teacher. You give back.
mhm,
You become the teacher. And the fourth phase is when you leave this world, this realm,
yeah,
and you
yeah, yeah,
practice detachment. Too many people try to be in the fourth phase when they're still kids and
yeah,
they haven't got rid of all of their
yep,
desires on the planet, and then they get corrupt and go crazy.
yeah,
And that's what we've got. The problem is people are trying to be too much, like they're trying to be teachers and gurus when they haven't learned anything yet. You know,
yeah, yeah,
you need to go through a bit of life to learn something.
yeah,
So um, but when it comes to the breath retention part
mhm,
and the importance of that, uh, let's look at like, I mean, to have a healthier life is a good thing because it means you can create more wealth, you provide more for
yeah,
your friends, family, and give
yeah,
back more, you
yeah,
contribute more, right?
yeah,
So, so the breath retention, how that relates to health is if you look at, and that's why trying to master health is really good because you can do
mhm,
more for the planet, right?
mhm, mhm,
So in pranayama and yoga, it was developed by looking at animals in nature.
mm,
Animals that live a long time, like elephants, turtles, they have very slow breathing rates.
mhm,
Animals that don't live a long time, like rats and mice,
mhm,
have very fast breathing rates, 150 breaths per minute versus 2 to 4 breaths
yeah,
for elephants and
yeah,
turtles. Now, there's a weird anomaly to this, which is the naked mole rat. Naked mole rats live underground in a hypoxic environment
mhm,
and they can hold their breath for like 18 minutes at a time and they live up to 30 years,
mm,
right? Free of diseases.
mm,
And whales can live up to 200 years or even
mm,
more,
mm,
and they hold their breath for 2 hours at a time. So you can see in the animal kingdom, animals that can hold their breath for long periods, who live in a more carbon dioxide, low oxygen environment, higher carbon dioxide,
mm,
lower oxygen environment, tend to live longer,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So if we mimic animals, the theory goes, and it definitely makes sense because I've observed it.
yeah,
You get healthier, you get happier, you feel better, and your life improves, your
mhm,
health improves. Diseases become less of a risk. It's
mhm,
disease that creates death
mhm,
eventually,
mhm,
right? Chronic
yeah,
disease.
mhm,
So the more you can minimize chronic disease, the better it is.
mhm, yeah,
Yeah?
yep, I love it. So tell me how Soma can help you with sort of having these mystical, spiritual experiences.
The breath, what it does is it creates a state called respiratory alkalosis
Mm,
when you hyperventilate.
mhm, mhm,
So that changes your pH of your blood. Your blood is constantly trying to maintain that pH.
Yeah.
When you fluctuate the pH even slightly, right, for
Yeah.
too long, you'll die. You'll actually die. But your body tries constantly, all day long, it's doing it, to adjust certain things in your body, certain aspects of your body, chemistry, to make sure you always have 7.4 pH,
Yeah.
slightly alkaline. But when you do fast rhythmic breathing, when you hyperventilate,
Mhm.
you actually alter that temporarily for quite a bit. You can go up to like
Yeah.
an 8 pH in alkalinity.
Yeah.
And your body's trying very hard to fix that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is you're creating, like, at some point, a near death experience.
Yeah.
Another thing with hyperventilating for long periods is you blow out all the carbon dioxide. If you get rid of lots of carbon dioxide,
Hmm.
it stops oxygen from being able to come off red blood cells and go to the tissue cells. So your
Yeah.
body tissue cells and your brain cells, they get less and less oxygen,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And and actually, if you look at some of the kind of proposed um, effects, like mechanisms of action of things like psilocybin, the theory is that they do something to the ability for the brain to take up glucose and produce and energy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you're doing what they would do kind of naturally.
Mm.
And there was a research paper that came out
Hmm.
about how DMT may be utilized by the body
Hmm.
when the cells are under very low oxygen
Mm.
environments.
Hmm.
And so maybe
Mm.
that's why with fast rhythmic breathing,
Yeah.
doing it for long periods, triggering these states
Yeah.
could create out
Yeah.
of body altered states of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I've personally had some psychedelic like experiences do it. That's what I said
Yeah.
the first time I did Soma, I was laying there on the bed like, oh, this is different. This is a different experience. Yeah. So Niraj, what's your big mission? What's your vision with Soma? Where do you see, do you do you have ideas of where you want it to go, where you see it going, how big it can get?
One of our good friends, they basically created Zumba. You probably heard of Zumba.
Yeah.
And they have over 250,000 instructors. And they said to me, you know, when you get to your first thousand, which we have now, that's when things
Yeah.
start getting very interesting,
Yeah.
which they have. It
Yeah.
like becomes like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
But they said, like, when you get to like 10,000,
Yeah.
then it gets really, really, you start to make an impact in the world,
Yeah.
start to make
Yeah.
a difference. When
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get to 250,000, you become like a household name.
Yeah.
Because the instructors go out there and they spread the word. They become the messengers of what you're doing. So
Yeah.
the sky's the limit. Everyone
Yeah.
breathes, all
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
not everyone can dance, but everyone can breathe.
It's true.
Right?
That's true. Yeah. I saw Steve's tattoo after you guys reached
Yeah,
11,000
that's right.
instructors. I
That's
think
right.
I've
It's
sent
cool.
like 4 or 5 people that have become instructors now. I
Oh,
mean,
wow. Amazing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm obviously not just an instructor, but a huge proponent of it because it's dramatically
Yes.
changed my life and in so many ways. And it not just affects you physically, all the amazing health benefits, but it changes your life on so many different levels.
Yeah. And also just being part of the community as well, because
So amazing.
the community is a cure in my
Yeah.
experience, because
Yeah.
when I was really depressed, it was when I found these like meditation
Yeah.
communities and
Yeah. Yeah.
alternative
Yep.
wisdom and
Yeah.
spirituality communities
Yeah.
where everything changed. I was like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who
100%.
thinks these crazy thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started to find new friends, and it was
Yeah.
amazing. That in itself,
Yeah.
like, was a huge part of my cure. I think people underestimate the power of
It's huge.
friendship, connection, love,
So huge. Yeah.
empathy,
Yeah.
consolation, counseling,
Yeah.
listening,
Mhm.
hearing.
Yeah.
These are the things that make people better.
Yeah. Yeah.
not the pills.
No. And I think that, I talk about it all the time that I had by the age of 15 been on every kind of antidepressant and sleeping pill. I mean, just all sorts of
Yeah.
diagnosis. And I mean, for the last 4 years, I've not taken any kind of
Wow.
prescription, anything, and I'm the happiest and healthiest I've ever been in my life. So I think
Wow.
there's something to be said for masking a lot of prescription pills, just masking deeper things that, and just so many people aren't aware of that. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I believed in the medical model and doctors know
Yeah.
best, and that I had little to no power over my mind and body.
Wow.
And I mean, I was addicted to pain pills for 10 years,
Really? Wow.
heavily addicted. Yeah, until I had a spiritual awakening, put myself through withdrawal, and said I'm done. And that was 4 years ago. And it's my mission now to show people they have way more power than they think they do over their mind and bodies. And Soma is a huge help in that. Anything else you want to add before I end this, Niraj?
Uh, no, just stay
Yeah,
healthy, stay positive.
yeah,
You know, do unto others as you expect to be done to yourself.
yeah.
The golden rule.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I so appreciate it. I love your work, and yeah, keep going. The sky's the limit.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell to be notified of our upcoming episodes, and leave a comment below if you enjoyed this episode.